In a serene temple nestled high in the mountains, the morning sun bathed the stone walls in a soft golden light. The air was still, the silence profound, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. Within the main hall, a group of disciples gathered around their master, a wise and compassionate monk who had spent decades meditating on the mysteries of life and death. The master sat cross-legged on a simple mat, his eyes half closed, a serene smile on his lips. His disciples, eager and attentive, waited patiently for his words, knowing that each teaching was a precious gem of wisdom. "Master," one of the younger disciples finally spoke, his voice filled with curiosity. "We have often heard you speak of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. But what truly happens after we leave this world? Where do we go, and what guides our journey?" The master opened his eyes, his gaze calm and piercing. "Ah, my dear students," he began, his voice gentle yet filled with depth, "the journey beyond this life is a profound mystery, one that has been pondered by sages and seekers for centuries. It is a journey not just of the body, but of the mind and spirit, guided by the invisible thread of karma." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "Karma," he continued, "is the force that binds our past, present, and future. Every thought, every action, every intention creates a ripple in the vast ocean of existence. These ripples do not vanish with the passing of our physical form, they follow us, shaping the path we take in the cycle of samsara, the endless wheel of birth, death, and rebirth." The disciples leaned in closer, captivated by the master's words. He spoke with the wisdom of one who had seen beyond the veil of ordinary life, into the very heart of existence itself. "When a being departs from this life," the master explained, "they enter a state known as Bardo, a realm between death and rebirth. It is a place where the soul, unanchored from the physical body, encounters visions and experiences shaped entirely by the karma they have accumulated. This state can last up to 49 days. A time when the soul must face the consequences of their actions, whether they be virtuous or sinful." A murmur of understanding passed through the group. The master, sensing their growing comprehension, continued, "And as the journey through Bardo concludes, the soul's karma guides it to its next life, within one of the 6 realms of existence. These realms are not merely places, they are reflections of the consciousness one carries from life to life." The master's voice softened, taking on a tone of quiet reflection. "Remember, dear students, that this cycle is not unbreakable. The goal of our practice is to transcend this endless wheel, to achieve enlightenment, and to find the peace of nirvana. But until then, we must be mindful of the karma we create, for it will determine the course of our journey through samsara." As the master's words lingered in the air, the disciples sat in silence, each lost in thought, contemplating the vastness of the teachings they had just received. The path before them was long and challenging, but with the guidance of their master, they knew they could navigate the complexities of existence and move closer to the ultimate truth. In Buddhist teachings, the concept of rebirth is not just a doctrine, it's the very essence that shapes our understanding of existence, of samsara, the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Have you ever wondered what happens to us after we leave this world? It's both fascinating and profound. This cycle, my dear listener, is guided by karma, the invisible thread that weaves our past, present, and future together. Imagine this: every thought you think, every action you take, every intention you hold, it all leaves a mark. And these marks don't just fade away when we die, they follow us, guiding where we go next. Isn't that both humbling and awe-inspiring? When a being passes from this life, they enter the mysterious state of Bardo. Can you imagine? A state where you are no longer bound to your physical body, yet you haven't quite moved on to the next life. This intermediate state can last up to 49 days. It's during this time that your consciousness, floating in this in-between world, experiences visions and encounters shaped entirely by the karma you've accumulated. What would it be like, I wonder, to face the reality of one's actions in such a direct way? Would it be blissful or terrifying? As this period ends, the moment of truth arrives, your karma is weighed, and it decides your next journey in the cycle of samsara. Picture this: being reborn into one of the 6 realms of existence. Each one a world of its own, reflecting the consciousness you carry with you. 1. Deva, heavenly realm. The realm of the Devas. Imagine living in a paradise where pleasure knows no bounds. Here, divine beings experience unimaginable happiness and luxury. Doesn't that sound like the perfect life? But wait, don't be fooled. Even in this seemingly eternal bliss, they are not free from the cycle of rebirth. Can you believe that even the most heavenly existence is impermanent? These Devas, with their long lives, might lose sight of the urgency to seek enlightenment, making their blissful state just another stop on the endless journey of samsara. 2. Asura, demigod realm. Now, think about the Asuras. These powerful beings. They have strength, they have abilities that we can only dream of, yet their lives are filled with jealousy and conflict. How tragic is that? They're constantly at war, driven by envy, especially towards the Devas. It's a life of turmoil, so much power, but so little peace. Isn't it a reminder that power and happiness don't always go hand in hand? 3. Manusa, human realm. And then, there's our world, the human realm. Have you ever thought about how lucky we are? Despite the suffering, despite the challenges, the human realm is considered the most precious. Why? Because it offers the perfect balance, a mix of joy and sorrow, of pleasure and pain. This balance gives us the unique opportunity to see the transient nature of all things. To awaken to the truth, and perhaps, just perhaps, to achieve enlightenment. Isn't that incredible? Right here, in our everyday lives, we have the chance to break free from samsara. 4. Animal realm. But what about the animals? Their world is one of survival, where ignorance and instinct reign. Can you imagine a life driven only by fear, hunger, and the need to survive? There's little room for spiritual growth in this realm, as beings here are consumed by their basic needs. It's a life of hardship, where the chance to transcend is so faint, it's heartbreaking. 5. Preta, hungry ghost realm. Now, consider the hungry ghosts in the Preta realm. Oh, the suffering they endure. With large stomachs and tiny mouths. They are consumed by insatiable desires, forever hungry, forever thirsty, yet never satisfied. What a haunting existence. Doesn't it make you think about the dangers of unchecked desires? How they can lead to an endless cycle of torment. 6. Naraka, hell realm. Finally, there's the Naraka, or hell realm. Can you even fathom the intense suffering that beings here endure? It's a realm where pain is constant, where beings suffer unimaginably as a result of their past negative actions. Yet, even in this realm, there is hope. Once their karma is exhausted, they move on to another existence. Isn't it a relief to know that even the deepest suffering isn't eternal? These realms aren't just stories or metaphors, they're vivid illustrations of the consequences of our actions. Our thoughts, our lives. They remind us that the cycle of samsara isn't bound by physical worlds but extends to all sentient beings, even those beyond our planet if they exist. Isn't it astonishing to think about? The cycle of samsara is all-encompassing, binding all forms of life in this endless journey of birth, death, and rebirth. But don't lose hope. The ultimate goal is to break free from this cycle, to attain enlightenment, and to find the peace that comes with nirvana. So, ask yourself, what kind of karma are you creating? What will your next journey in samsara be like? The power is in your hands, right here, right now. Let that inspire you, let that guide you on your path. The Asura realm. What a place of complexity and mystery that truly captivates the mind. Among the 6 realms within Buddhist cosmology, the Asura realm stands out, not just for its intricate nature but for the intense emotions that swirl within it. Have you ever wondered what drives such powerful beings to live in a state of constant turmoil? The Asuras, often referred to as demigods or titans, are no ordinary entities. Their immense power is undeniable, but so too is their pride and jealousy, emotions that fuel their endless conflicts with the Devas, the serene heavenly beings who dwell in realms of peace. Can you imagine living in such a state, where every moment is consumed by envy and the desire for dominance? Visualize the Asura realm as it is vividly portrayed in Buddhist art and literature, a place of grandeur, yet filled with ceaseless strife. Picture the famous Mogao caves at Dunhuang, China. There, a mural captures the very essence of this realm. How fascinating it is to think of Mount Sumeru, the colossal mountain at the heart of the universe, where the Devas reside in tranquil splendor at the Tavatimsa heaven. But the Asuras? They inhabit the lower regions, always yearning, always striving to ascend to those heavenly heights. Can you feel the frustration that must drive them? The constant urge to overthrow the Devas and take what they believe is rightfully theirs. One mural in particular leaves a lasting impression. It shows a giant figure with dark skin, four powerful arms, and an imposing stance that makes the ocean seem insignificant. It barely reaches his knees. This is King Asura, the mighty ruler of the Asura realm. Imagine the power in his hands as he grasps the sun in one and the moon in the other. Such strength. Such dominance. And yet, what does it all mean? Surrounded by lesser deities who look up to him with a mix of reverence and fear, King Asura embodies the overwhelming might and intimidating nature of the Asuras. But is it all just power, or is there something more, something deeper that these depictions are trying to tell us? The emotions that drive the Asuras are not just about physical strength. They are trapped in a cycle of desire and aggression, constantly battling the fear of being inferior. Does this not remind us of the dangers of unchecked ambition? Of the destructive nature of jealousy and pride? The mural serves as a powerful reminder, one that resonates deeply within us, of the suffering that comes from allowing such emotions to take control. It's a reflection of the human experience, don't you think? We, too, can get caught in our own cycles of desire, losing sight of what truly matters. So, as we contemplate the Asura realm, let it be a lesson, a cautionary tale that stirs our hearts. It's a stark contrast to the serene and harmonious existence of the Devas. And through it, we are reminded of the moral and spiritual teachings of Buddhism. Isn't it fascinating how art and literature can convey such profound messages? They urge us to reflect on our own lives, to strive for balance, wisdom, and compassion. After all, who among us hasn't felt the pull of these negative emotions? But in understanding them, perhaps we can transcend them and find peace, just as the teachings suggest. The term Asura comes from the ancient Sanskrit language, and do you know what it means? It means, not virtuous or anti-God. Just imagine the weight of such a name. It tells us so much about the complex and contradictory nature of these beings. The Asuras aren't just ordinary creatures, they exist in a space between the divine and the demonic, a realm that is neither fully godlike nor entirely evil. Can you feel the tension in that existence? They are endowed with immense power, almost as if they were gods themselves, yet they lack the moral virtues and righteous qualities that make the Devas, the gods, so revered. How could beings so powerful be so troubled? Think about it. The Asuras, with all their might, are driven by an overwhelming sense of envy and resentment toward the Devas. This isn't just a passing feeling, it's a profound and consuming emotion that gnaws at them, pushing them into relentless conflicts. Have you ever felt that burning desire for something just out of reach? That's the Asuras, always longing, always fighting for what the Devas have, whether it's power, status, or the adoration of mortals. But what does this endless struggle give them? Only more battles, more turmoil. Despite their near-divine powers, the Asuras are tormented by inner demons, pride, jealousy, and ambition. Can you imagine living with such intense feelings all the time? It must be exhausting. And this inner turmoil doesn't just stay inside. It bursts forth in their terrifying appearances. Picture them with multiple heads, arms, and eyes. What a sight! These fearsome forms aren't just for show, they symbolize the chaotic nature of their existence, a constant reminder of the battles they wage within themselves. Isn't it fascinating how their outer form reflects their inner strife? In the grand scheme of existence, the Asuras are classified as one of the 6 realms, and even more intriguingly, as one of the 3 good realms, Deva, Manusa, and Asura. But don't be fooled by the term good. Unlike the peaceful, blissful lives of the Devas, the Asuras live in a state of perpetual conflict. They are always at war, sometimes with the Devas, sometimes among themselves. What kind of life is that? Driven by their insatiable desires for power and dominance, their existence is one of constant battle. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is it really worth it? To truly understand the Asuras, we must delve deep into their origins. Why are they in such a constant state of conflict? What drives them to fight, again and again? The myths tell us tales of their creation, their cosmic battles, and the lessons they offer us, lessons about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the destructive power of envy and pride. The Asuras aren't just mythical beings, they are mirrors reflecting the darker aspects of our own existence. They remind us of the battles we face, both within ourselves and in the world around us. How often do we find ourselves torn between our desires and our virtues? The Asuras show us what happens when the balance tips too far, so let's take these lessons to heart. The Asuras may be ancient beings, but their stories resonate with us even today. They challenge us to look within, to confront our own inner Asuras, and to find a path that leads not to endless conflict, but to peace and wisdom. What do you think? Are you ready to face your own inner demons? The origins of the Asuras, have you ever heard anything so mesmerizing, so terrifying, are deeply rooted in ancient myths and legends, passed down through the ages in sacred texts. Can you imagine a time when the world was just being formed? According to the revered Samadhi Sutra, at the dawn of time, when the world was newly born, the vast mountains rose majestically from the earth, the boundless seas teemed with mysterious life, and the lands took shape under the divine touch. Oh, how wondrous it must have been! In this primordial era, celestial beings, curious and eager, descended from the heavens to explore the splendor of this new creation. Among these ethereal beings was a celestial maiden, radiant and graceful beyond compare. She was a vision of beauty, wasn't she? But fate had other plans for her. One day, while she was bathing in the pristine, crystal-clear waters of the ocean, something truly extraordinary happened. A mysterious crystal, imbued with the very essence of the cosmos, somehow found its way into her body. Can you even imagine her surprise? Or perhaps she didn't realize it at all. Over 8,000 years, this crystal, hidden deep within her, slowly began to grow and develop, transforming into something unimaginable, a flesh egg. From this egg emerged a being that defied all comprehension, a terrifying female demoness whose form was both awe-inspiring and utterly terrifying. Picture this, a creature as enormous as the legendary Mount Sumeru, the axis of the universe itself. What would you do if you saw her? Her monstrous appearance was almost too much to bear, thousands of eyes that could see across the realms, 99 heads whispering the deepest secrets of the universe, 1,000 mouths speaking in a cacophony of voices, 1,000 hands capable of unimaginable power, and yet, only 24 legs to support her colossal form. She wasn't just a demon, oh no, she was the very embodiment of power and potential. It was she who became the progenitor of the Asuras, a race destined for greatness yet cursed with unending conflict and jealousy. Doesn't that sound like a tragic fate? But the story doesn't end there. From this fearsome demoness, a son was born, King Asura, known as Pimachita. Can you believe it? Pimachita, with a legacy of such immense power, inherited not only his mother's strength but also her terrifying appearance. His form, how can one even begin to describe it, was even more fearsome than his mother's. Imagine a creature with 9 heads, each more terrifying than the last, 1,000 eyes that could see through the veil of all illusions, 999 hands capable of both creation and utter destruction, and 8 legs strong enough to traverse both heaven and earth in an instant. Just think of it. His appearance was so overwhelming, so terrifying, that even today, the most skilled and imaginative artists struggle to capture his true form. What do you see when you picture him? Often, they depict him in a simplified manner, with just 4 eyes and 4 arms. Why? To convey his essence without overwhelming the viewer with the sheer terror of his full presence. But even in this simplified form, you can feel the weight of his power, can't you? These origins, oh, they're not just stories, are they? They are a glimpse into the eternal struggle between power and the consequences it brings. The Asuras, born from this terrifying lineage, are forever caught in a cycle of desire, jealousy, and conflict. And to think, it all began with a celestial maiden and a mysterious crystal. Long, long ago. How does that make you feel? What do you think of this ancient tale? Isn't it both tragic and fascinating? One of the most defining and astonishing characteristics of the Asuras is their never-ending struggle, their relentless battle with the Devas, especially with Indra, the mighty king of the gods. Can you imagine the tension, the sheer intensity of this cosmic feud? It's not just a simple skirmish, it symbolizes something much deeper, the eternal battle between virtue and vice, the unending clash between the forces of good and evil. This isn't just a story, it's a reflection of the universal struggle that resonates within us all. The Asuras, with their formidable strength and unyielding determination, were never content with their lot. Led by their indomitable king, Perpetual, they harbored a fierce envy towards the Devas, who lived in unmatched splendor in the heavens. How could they not be envious? The Devas seemed to have it all, the luxury, the power, the spiritual supremacy. This burning jealousy, this insatiable desire to dethrone the Devas, to claim the heavens for themselves, fueled their every action. It was this very envy that sparked one of the most dramatic events in their history. Just imagine the scene: Perpetual, the powerful king of the Asuras, captivated by the breathtaking beauty of a celestial maiden, Gandharva. His heart wasn't just moved, it was conquered. He decided, with a resolve that could shake the heavens, that he must marry her. But was it just love, or was it something more, a strategic move in this grand cosmic chess game? Recognizing the immense potential of this union, Perpetual's mother, wise and perceptive, assisted her son in winning Gandharva's hand. Can you feel the tension? The stakes were sky-high. When Gandharva, the epitome of celestial grace, agreed to the marriage, it wasn't just a union of 2 beings, it was the beginning of an era, the rapid expansion of the Asura race. After 8,000 long years, their daughter Sachi was born, and she was unlike any other. Sachi wasn't just beautiful, she was the very embodiment of allure, a sight so mesmerizing that even Indra, the king of the Devas, could not resist her. Can you imagine the sheer magnetism she must have possessed to captivate a god? Indra, the great and powerful king, found himself utterly captivated by Sachi. His desire to marry her was so overwhelming that he was willing to agree to any condition Perpetual set. And what a condition it was! Perpetual demanded that Indra allow him to sit in the 7 Jewels Palace, a place of unimaginable beauty and power. Indra, in his desperation, did the unthinkable. He cast his jeweled crown into the sea, using the immense merits he had earned through the practice of the 10 virtues to create the magnificent 7 Jewels Palace. How incredible is that? Perpetual, pleased with this astonishing gesture, agreed to the marriage, and thus, Sachi became Indra's queen. But do you think this union was destined for peace and happiness? Far from it. Despite being adored by Indra, Sachi was consumed by jealousy. Can you blame her? Seeing Indra surrounded by celestial maidens, her heart must have burned with an intense, fiery envy. One day, unable to bear the sight of Indra playing with these maidens, Sachi's rage boiled over. In a moment of desperation, she sent 5 yakshas to inform her father of Indra's behavior. Imagine Perpetual's reaction. Already seething with resentment towards the Devas, this news ignited a furious wrath within him. How dare Indra, the king of the Devas, treat his daughter with such disrespect? Enraged beyond measure, Pimachita rallied his powerful army of Asuras and launched a full-scale attack on the heavenly realm. Can you feel the intensity of this moment? This wasn't just a battle, it was an all-out war. One that would go down in history as one of the most epic and fierce clashes in Buddhist mythology. This battle wasn't just a fight, it was the beginning of a perpetual war, an unending conflict that continues to symbolize the ceaseless struggle between the forces of good and evil, between order and chaos. Isn't it fascinating, yet terrifying, how this cosmic conflict mirrors the inner battles we all face? The story of the Asuras and the Devas is not just a myth, it's a powerful reminder of the eternal tensions that shape our world, and perhaps, our very souls. The ongoing battle between the Asuras and the Devas is not just a story of physical might, it's a saga of deep spiritual warfare. Can you imagine the intensity of this conflict, where the very forces of the universe clash not only with weapons but with the profound power of spiritual practices? The Devas, under the wise and courageous leadership of Indra, do not rely solely on their strength. Oh no, they draw deeply from their spiritual essence, from the sacred mantras that resonate with the teachings of the Buddha, to protect themselves and to conquer the relentless Asuras. Isn't that remarkable? Take the first great battle, for instance. The Asura army, led by the fearsome Pimachita, launched an unrelenting siege on Mount Sumeru. The mountain was surrounded on all sides. You can almost feel the tension, the looming threat as the Devas faced what seemed to be an insurmountable force. But just when it seemed that all hope might be lost, Indra, oh, brilliant Indra, remembered the Buddha's teachings. With unwavering faith, he chanted a mantra, and what happened next was nothing short of miraculous. For razor-sharp wheels, glowing with divine energy, descended from the sky. They weren't just wheels, they were the embodiment of divine justice, slicing through the Asura ranks with a precision that left their army in ruins. What an incredible sight that must have been. But did the Asuras give up? Not a chance. They were battered, yes, but their spirit? Unbroken. They retreated, licked their wounds, and emerged stronger. They didn't just recover, they grew more powerful, forming 4 major tribes, each led by a king Asura whose strength was the stuff of legends. And who were these formidable kings? 1. Prajna, brave, the embodiment of fearlessness. Prajna led his warriors with unmatched courage, always at the forefront of battle. Can you picture him, charging into the fray with no fear in his heart? 2. Latriada, thunderous roar, his voice alone could shake the heavens. With broad shoulders and a presence that could stop anyone in their tracks. Latriada was a warrior who was feared far and wide. 3. Pimachita, flower garland, the original King Asura, whose name might make you think of something gentle, but don't be fooled. Pimachita was unmatched in power, a true force of nature on the battlefield. 4. Rahu, eclipse, the very thought of Rahu sends chills down the spine, doesn't it? With his ability to block out the sun and moon, Rahu brought darkness wherever he went, literally and figuratively. These kings and their armies posed an enormous threat to the Devas. It seemed like the Asuras were gaining the upper hand. But the Devas, with their divine wisdom and their unwavering commitment to spiritual practices, were always prepared. In one of the later battles, just when the Asuras thought they had the upper hand, Indra, ever wise, ever faithful, once again turned to the Buddha's teachings. He chanted another sacred mantra, and what happened next was simply breathtaking. A divine chariot, shining with the light of the heavens, appeared out of nowhere. Can you picture it? This wasn't just any chariot, it was armed with spiritual weapons, driven by celestial beings who charged into the Asura ranks with unmatched power. The Asura forces didn't stand a chance, they were utterly decimated, scattered to the winds by this divine force, but still, the Asuras refused to give up. How could they? Their pride, their unyielding determination, these were the very things that defined them. They kept fighting. Driven by an insatiable thirst for power and dominance, even when the odds were stacked against them. And isn't that what makes their story so compelling? The Asuras, with all their flaws and their relentless pursuit of power, remind us of the endless struggle between light and darkness, wisdom and ignorance, that plays out not just in the heavens but within each of us. In Buddhist teachings, the concept of karma is not just a mere idea, it's a profound truth that shapes the destiny of every being, including the mighty Asuras. Can you imagine? These beings, with their immense power and supernatural abilities, are still not free from the consequences of their actions. It's almost heartbreaking to think that despite their strength, they are bound by the very karma they create, often leading them into a life of relentless suffering and struggle. The Asuras, these powerful entities, seem like they have it all, don't they? Yet, they are caught in an endless cycle of conflict and pain. Why? Because their pride, their jealousy, their burning desire for power, those very traits that might make them appear invincible, are the chains that bind them to suffering. Isn't it tragic? Despite all their might, they cannot break free from the cycle of samsara, from the endless rebirths and the suffering that comes with it. How can they, when their own nature keeps pulling them back into the same destructive patterns? And then there's the story of Rahu. What a poignant example of the Asura's karmic plight. Imagine being a devout practitioner in a past life, striving for spiritual growth, only to have it all unravel because of one moment of frustration. Yes, Rahu, in a moment of anger, sealed a rat's hole for 6 days while meditating. It seems like such a small act, doesn't it? But this single act of cruelty sealed his fate. Rahu was reborn as an Asura, cursed to bear the weight of his past actions. How could this happen? Even with all his power as an Asura, Rahu could never escape his karma, never outrun the consequences of that single, thoughtless act. Isn't that a powerful lesson? Despite his strength, Rahu was doomed to a life of conflict, constantly battling the Devas, driven by the very karma he couldn't escape. It's almost unbearable to think about. His story is a stark reminder, no matter how powerful we think we are, no matter what we achieve, the karma we create will always find us. It's inescapable, isn't it? And the consequences can be so much more than we ever imagined. So what does this teach us? It's not just about the power we wield or the strength we possess. True liberation, true peace, can only come from purifying our karma. We must overcome our negative traits, our pride, our jealousy. We must cultivate virtues like compassion, humility, and wisdom. Because without these, we're no different from the Asuras, powerful, yet tragically bound to a cycle of suffering of our own making. Isn't that a thought worth reflecting on? In Buddhist cosmology, the Asuras are often depicted as beings driven by conflict, constantly battling with anger, jealousy, and a restless spirit. But have you ever wondered if there's more to their story? The role of Asuras in Hindu mythology reveals a much richer, more nuanced perspective that might surprise you. Unlike the simple portrayal in Buddhism, Hinduism presents the Asuras as part of a cosmic dance, an essential balance in the grand Deva-Asura dichotomy. Isn't it fascinating to think that this struggle isn't just about good versus evil, but about forces that maintain the very fabric of the universe? Imagine this. The Asuras, just like the Devas, were created by Brahma, the god of creation. Yes, they were born from the same divine essence. They aren't banished to some distant, dark corner of the cosmos. Instead, they share their abode with the Devas on Mount Sumeru, the cosmic mountain that serves as the universe's axis. This coexistence is a powerful reminder that both Asuras and Devas are vital to maintaining the cosmic balance. Doesn't that make you rethink the simplistic notion of them being mere antagonists? One of the most captivating stories involving the Asuras is the churning of the cosmic ocean, the Milky Ocean, in search of the elixir of immortality, known as Amrita. Picture it, the Asuras and Devas, despite their deep-seated differences, join forces in this grand endeavor, using the serpent Vasuki as a rope and Mount Mandara as the churning rod. What a sight that must have been! Yet, this fragile cooperation soon shatters as the Asuras, driven by their intense desire for power, attempt to seize the Amrita for themselves. Can you imagine the tension in that moment? this act of treachery showcases the Asuras' complexity. They're not just evil beings, they're motivated by desires and aspirations that, while leading them into conflict with the Devas, also make them incredibly relatable. Who among us hasn't been tempted by power or driven by ambition? But the story doesn't end there. Vishnu, the preserver of the universe, steps in with a plan as cunning as it is divine. Disguised as Mohini, a breathtakingly beautiful woman, Vishnu tricks the Asuras into relinquishing the Amrita to the Devas. What a twist! Doesn't this make you wonder about the nature of deception and justice? But wait, before you judge the Asuras too harshly, consider this: in Hindu mythology, they aren't mere villains. They have their own sense of righteousness, their own code of ethics, and their own version of justice that simply differs from that of the Devas. This perspective challenges us to think beyond the binary of good and evil. Could it be that the Asuras, in their own way, contribute to the cosmic order? Their actions, though often antagonistic, are part of the great cosmic drama that keeps the universe in balance. Isn't it amazing how this story reframes our understanding of morality? In both Buddhist and Hindu cosmology, the Asuras stand as powerful symbols of life's inherent duality. They embody the ongoing struggle between light and darkness, virtue and vice, a struggle that resonates deeply within our own lives. Their existence reminds us of the crucial importance of spiritual practice, of being self-aware, and of navigating our desires and emotions with wisdom. These tales of the Asuras, rich with lessons about the consequences of actions driven by negative emotions, offer us timeless insights. Don't they make you pause and reflect on your own life, your own choices? How incredible is it that these ancient stories continue to speak to the human experience, guiding us through the complexities of existence? The tale of the Asuras is one of enduring conflict, a battle that rages not only against the Devas but deep within their very souls. Can you imagine the torment they must feel, trapped in an endless cycle of struggle, driven by their own inner demons? These beings, with all their formidable power and strength, find themselves in a relentless loop of suffering. Despite their incredible abilities, they remain agonizingly distant from the peace and liberation that enlightenment offers. How tragic is it that they are so close, yet so far from true freedom? At the core of the Asuras' plight is their overwhelming pride, jealousy, and insatiable desire. These traits, left unchecked, become the very chains that bind them to a life of turmoil and pain. Does this not serve as a powerful warning to us all? The Asuras' story is more than just a myth, it's a deeply resonant lesson that speaks to the heart of the human experience. It cries out to us, urging us to look within and recognize the destructive power of unchecked emotions. It compels us to ask ourselves, are we cultivating the humility, wisdom, and compassion needed to break free from our own cycles of suffering? The Asuras are not just characters in an ancient legend, they are reflections of the inner battles that we all face on our journey toward spiritual awakening. Their struggles are our struggles, the anger, the envy, the greed that we all wrestle with. How often do we find ourselves caught in similar battles? Our judgment clouded by emotions that lead us astray? Their story is a mirror, showing us the challenges that lie on the path to true peace and happiness. Can we see ourselves in them? Are we willing to confront our inner demons and do the hard work necessary to find lasting peace? In the end, the Asuras teach us a timeless truth. True strength is not found in physical power or material wealth, but in the mastery of our own minds and emotions. This is no small feat. The path to liberation, to ultimate happiness, demands more than just external victories, it demands the courage to face our deepest fears and desires head-on. Will we rise to the challenge? Can we, like the Asuras, recognize the need for inner transformation before it's too late? Their story is not just a tale of cosmic conflict, it's a call to action for each and every one of us. It's a reminder that the battles we face on our spiritual journey are not just with the world outside but with the world within. Will you heed the lesson of the Asuras? Will you take up the challenge to cultivate the virtues of wisdom, compassion, and self-control? Only by doing so can we hope to break free from the chains of samsara and attain the lasting peace that comes with enlightenment. Let their story inspire you to look within, to face your own struggles, and to embark on the journey toward true freedom and happiness. As the Master's teachings on rebirth and the realms of existence drew to a close, the air in the temple seemed charged with a deep, contemplative energy. The disciples, their minds awash with the profound truths they had just absorbed, sat in silent reflection, the weight of the Master's words settling into their hearts. The Master, sensing the time was right, slowly rose from his seat. His movements were deliberate, each step embodying the calm and grace of a lifetime devoted to the path of enlightenment. The disciples followed suit, standing respectfully, their eyes fixed on their revered teacher. "My dear students," the Master began, his voice resonating with the wisdom of many lifetimes. "You have now glimpsed the vastness of the journey that lies before all sentient beings. The cycle of samsara, with its endless birth and rebirth, is not merely a doctrine, it is the very fabric of our existence. Yet, within this cycle, we find not only suffering but also the seeds of liberation." He looked at each disciple in turn, his gaze filled with compassion and understanding. "You may feel overwhelmed by the immensity of what you have learned today. But remember, the teachings of the Buddha are not meant to burden you, they are a lamp to guide you through the darkness of ignorance. With each step you take on this path, you illuminate not only your own soul but the souls of all beings around you." The disciples nodded, their expressions a mix of awe and determination. They knew that the path ahead would be challenging, but the Master's words filled them with a renewed sense of purpose. As we conclude today's teachings, the Master continued, "I ask you to carry this wisdom with you, not just in your minds, but in your hearts and actions. The karma you create, the choices you make, these will shape not only your future but the future of countless beings. Approach each moment with mindfulness, each action with compassion, and each thought with clarity. This is the way to break free from the cycle of samsara and move towards the peace of nirvana." The Master paused, letting his final words sink in. The disciples stood in reverent silence, absorbing the depth of his message. "Now, go forth, my students," the Master said, his voice soft yet commanding, "and live the teachings. Let your lives be a reflection of the Dharma, a testament to the truth that you have come to understand. And remember, I am always here, walking this path with you, guiding you with the light of the Buddha's wisdom." With that, the Master gave a gentle nod, signaling the end of the session. The disciples bowed deeply, their hearts full of gratitude and reverence. As they slowly dispersed, leaving the temple hall, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow over the mountains. The Master remained in the hall, his hands folded in quiet prayer. His heart was at peace, knowing that his disciples were now equipped with the knowledge they needed to continue their spiritual journey. The temple, bathed in the fading light of day, stood as a silent witness to the profound exchange of wisdom that had taken place within its walls. And so, as night fell, the cycle of learning and teaching continued, just as it had for countless generations before, and just as it would for generations to come, each step bringing them all closer to the ultimate truth.